Alright, so we're trying to replace the steering components on this van, the 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan. I'm going to be changing the rack and pinion on it because it was leaking out through there because the mechanic shop here in town completely messed it up and it started to leak out of there. Didn't really realize it was this much of a big idea or a big deal. Alright, so I tried to take it out without dropping the cross or the subframe down here. You're gonna have to drop it no matter what you do because on the new part over here you can tell. Hold on, let me pause the music. You can tell that this part right here sticks up pretty far. So you're gonna have to actually see how this one comes with everything new. So that's pretty cool. I like how it's actually coming out pretty good. Everything new on here. Guy from Rock Auto got here early. Anyways, this part sticks up out a little too tall, so you can't slip it out. I was trying to just slip it out, and it was not working. So what I'm gonna have to do is, if you can see down here, is actually remove this cross member. So there's like 2 bolts over there. We have 2 bolts right here. And a couple bolts down the ways. You see the mechanic shop totally missed this bolt right there. They didn't put a bolt back there. That's kind of horrible. Anyway, it's a whole different story. I don't like the mechanic shop at all anymore. They used to do good work, but not anymore. So what I'm going to do is support it with some jack stands around the middle of the body, because it's like a unibody type of deal. Not really a good frame on here. I'm going to support it from the front also, but I'm going to change out those ramps for some wood. I cut a bunch of wood, so I'll get back to you when I actually have this thing sitting on those jack stands. Alright, so we're back. You see I got some pieces of old wood, thankfully. Had some old 2x6s lying around, so cut them up, threw them under there, under each jack stand in the front, under that front like radiator support type of deal, that cross member up there in the very front of the van. You'll see it if you get under your van. And that supports the front. And I threw some jack stands right here as well to support the middle. I didn't want to do just the front. I don't know. It seems like it'd probably bend the frame a little bit, maybe make the door gaps not line up anymore if I did it like that. Like just have it sitting like that. So I support it from the middle and the front. I got one jack. I got an aluminum jack, a little 1.5 ton aluminum jack from Harbor Freight, with a big piece of 4x4 wood cut to the oil pan of the engine. That's gonna support the engine because I know that when I drop this cross member, it's gonna drop everything down there. I'm wondering if I'm gonna need it on the transmission as well. You can see here my transmission is leaking a little bit. It's my parents' vehicle, but the transmission gasket for the pan leaking a good bit. You can see on there. But that's a project for another day. Maybe when it's not 110 degrees outside. But it's like that every day, so we'll see. This is what it looks like down here. This is what you're gonna end up seeing too. This is part of the actual steering, power steering as well. I unhooked it, it goes right here to these bolt hole, or this bolt hole right there. With this one and then a bolt hole over there. I believe those are 10mm or 12. Everything's pretty much 16, 10, and 12 on this car, so that's pretty cool. Now I'm gonna take off. You see how there's one bolt missing, how I was talking about earlier? Now I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna start taking this cross member down. I guess we'll see what the hell needs to come down as well. You can probably see over there. I'll let you see. I'll get back to you when I get this. Oh, look, I actually got this steering rack moving. So as you can see, that's the only part that keeps it from coming out. And in here. So that's why you gotta drop this cross member, because it literally is kind of caged in there. Kind of a horrible design. That's why I like working on pickup trucks. They're a little better. But alright, I'll get back to you in a little bit. Alright, so I got some of the bolts out there, or loosened. You're going to need an 18 and a 21, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah, you're going to need a 21. Preferably with a 1/2-inch impact. I got the Milwaukee High Torque, I think the Gen 2 or Gen 3, what is that new one? I don't remember. And then, make sure you got a jack to support that, man. I'm glad I left the bolts in there, just started up, because that thing falls down. I tell you what. Man, it's expensive being broke. You gotta do this stuff yourself. But hey, that's how you learn, man. Can't wait till I have a shop with a couple lifts and stuff like that, so I can actually work on my stuff in safety and comfort. But yeah, so make sure you do all that, where you take your time, support everything. Man, for this project, if you're really gonna do it, you're gonna need a couple jacks, man, and a couple pieces of wood. I got a full-size floor jack, 2 of these mini jack aluminum ones from Harbor Freight. Everything's from Harbor Freight, man. It's all cheapy, but it works amazing. And if you can afford the Daytona, get the Daytona. And do not even think about getting the blue one over there, the Pittsburgh, if you can get the Daytona. The Daytona is that much better, trust me. Just the fit and finish, and the way that it actually goes down smoothly without like falling when you want to release the pressure is life-changing and probably life-saving if you really think about it. So yeah, make sure you get the Daytona. I really want to get the big Daytona aluminum jack. We'll see what that's all about. Alright, let me get the rest of these bolts out one by one, and I'll get back to you if I see anything that's worth noting. Alright, so this is under the transmission. From the front looking back, there's like a little mount that you gotta unbolt. If you like, right now I'm just lowering the cross member. I'm not gonna drop it completely, so you don't have so much stuff to reassemble. But to do it this way, you need to take off 2 bolts from like this mount that it has. I think it's a body mount or transmission mount or something that goes to this cross member right in the middle. There is 2 16mm bolts. There's gonna be one that's already removed, and then another one to the right, or like driver's side and passenger side. You get that out, and it should fall a little better. Alright, sweet baby Jesus, we got her done. We got her unhooked from that little, I think it's a transmission mount or something, from that cross member. And now look at the gap we got here. We got space for days. And now she can come right out, just like that. Flies out. Like an airport runway. Alright, I'll get back to you when I have the new one in. Alright, so this is looking from the rear of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle. You see, this is the exhaust pipe going that way to the passenger side. This is the boot coming out of the steering, so the steering shaft. Alright, so the steering shaft's inside this boot. That boot has been cut by the previous, what's it called? Mechanic shop, so don't worry about that. Yours should not be cut like that. But cutting it does make it easier, so cut it if you want, I guess. Right now, I have the whole new piece in there. You can tell that there's this metal heat shield. That's a big pain in the ass. 2 10mm in the front and 2 push pins in the back, and then I'll get out your way. Right now I'm trying to align the steering shaft with the like input shaft or something, whatever it's called, of the rack and pinion. So wish me luck on that. Alright, so I got the sway bar reconnected or remounted right here, and I have one of the bolts for the actual rack and pinion. There's another bolt for the rack and pinion hiding under the heat shield. So you have to have the heat shield out to get to those. Alright, So we're getting there. I got pretty much all of the bolts holding the cross member, as you can tell. And now I had forgotten to get the rear transmission interior mount bolted up. So, as you can see, that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to get that thing lined up. And it's kind of a pain in the rear, but it's alright. It'll work out. Alright, so a little bit more progress. I got the feed lines to the actual rack and pinion threaded in. I got the line and the exhaust bracket bolted in. I have 2 or 3 subframe bolts in. And now I think I'm going to do the one that goes to this front catching cross member. That go right here. Alright, so your rack and pinion should line up pretty well. Lines being very difficult. Just make sure that your line lines up. Your line came with a line marked on it with marker in green from the factory to tell me where center mark is. So I have a seat belt around my steering wheel, locking my steering wheel straight, and I'm gonna follow, or I'm gonna make sure that when I hook up my steering shaft, I'm still trying to do the steering shaft. It's been a while. It's being pretty difficult. When I hook up my steering shaft, coming from the steering wheel down into the rack and pinion input shaft, everything lines up. I'm gonna show you the green line that came from the factory. So you should have been able to see it there. Hopefully you saw it. It all lines up pretty much. I know I had it on the little black boot too, but I moved the black boot around a couple times. So, but trust me, it should be there when you have yours. A green line or any line, a marker or something lining up center, the center point. All right. So now I have the bolt in for the input shaft. I have these 3 bolts tightened. Or missing that one. Yours should have one there. I have these all tightened up in the back. Everything there. I have these tightened up. Now I have this one tightened up. I just need these over here. And I need to tighten that last one up in the front. And let me do that real quick. Sweet baby Jesus, we got it, boys. Alright, y'all. Couldn't do without y'all. Finally got it in there. Can you see that in the middle of the screen? It's actually in there. You're gonna give it. I'm using a 3-foot pry bar from one of these 3-foot pry bars from Harbor Freight. Give it and put it into the little slot that it has on top. And then you kind of give it a forward push to the forward of the vehicle while you have your pry bar in that little slot. A forward push, and then like kind of a pressure down while you use the floorboard of the vehicle as a leverage point. And it kind of like gets the correct angle and swoop, it slides right down. About an hour of fighting with it, and that mixture of movements seems to have done the trick. So, make sure y'all try that out. And I really recommend, I mean, if you can afford it, get the shop to do this, because gosh darn, doing it on the driveway it'll teach you some things, I'll tell you that much. Alright, I'll get you back in a little bit. Alright, so this is looking from the rear of the vehicle to the front of the vehicle. I'm pretty much finishing up here. I'm not sure how this is supposed to go. I found 2 bolts that can go onto the top mounts. So, it's gonna go like this. This is still tight. This is loose. I guess the mechanic shop before left it without a nut here. This is tight already over here. I think think I have everything pretty much tight. I'm already done for the day. Just gotta finish with the tie rod ends, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so pretty much everything is buttoned up in there. I've got it all looking good. The power steering fluid sure does shine up everything. Makes it look pretty. I got everything there, like you see. Gotta put a cotter pin in there though, and on the other side. Make sure you put your cotter pins in. You can pretty much get the threads count off the old one, and then match it to this one. They didn't work for me. It's supposed to work, but it did not work for me. And I guess I'll get an alignment later on. Alright, so here we are the next day. I got the steering rack and pinion all in there. Everything's all buttoned up. Right now I'm going to check the alignment. So yeah, make sure your steering wheel didn't turn too much, but the clock spring and the steering wheel can go bad if you add free spin. So I like to do the trick where you put the seat belt to hold the steering wheel in place. So this is pretty much how it looks now. It looks all cleaned up and everything. I'm gonna check right now for leaks. I don't think it has any leaks. As you can tell, this is old leaks, right? Old stuff, but right there, all looks good still. Everything looks good. The lines look good. Everything looks good. So right now, last night I bled the system. You just fill up the reservoir, turn the wheel, lock to lock a couple times. Kenny Rogers. A couple times. Let the vehicle off, and then turn the vehicle on, and turn it from lock to lock while refilling the reservoir, keeping it between the maximum and minimum lines, and keep turning it lock to lock until it stops whining, and until you stop seeing air bubbles come out and stuff like that, and then you'll be set. For me, it took about 2.5 of these Prestone power steering fluid, 12-ounce bottles, about 2.5 of those. So buy 3 at the store. All right, let me put the wheels, or let me check the alignment, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so I messed up the original tie rod ends that came on the van or whatever. So now I put on the ones that came with the new rack and pinion. But the old nuts were pretty beat up, so I went to Ace True Value, and I got some grade 8 lock nuts and some washers, just because it's pretty rough down there. So I'm gonna see if I can get this alignment straight. Man, this thing's looking like I need to go take it to get aligned. So that's pretty much it. I'll put the wheels on after this. Alright, so I got the wheels and tires on there already. Everything's bolted down on both sides. Remember, when you're supposed to be checking your alignment, you're supposed to be checking it with the full weight of the vehicle on the ground. I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. I'm going to go take it to the shop to get aligned with a laser. I really need to learn how to do it by myself, but maybe another day, we'll see. I'm sure this alignment is going to be garbage, and I'll probably readjust it real quick. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I'm just checking for leaks and everything, spraying everything down with a little bit of brake clean, and so far so good. Thanks for watching. This is on a 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan. The trim level, I think, is the SXT. Has like 90,000 miles on it. Yeah, I'll probably do more maintenance on this vehicle. So I'll probably make more videos soon. Thanks for watching.